Hello, thank you for joining me. This is our third video in our series, how to put in a tapered thread. And what we did in the two previous videos is give you an introduction, talk about some of the methods, either using a loft or using a sweep. And in this video, we're going to be using a sweep. And in this actual video, number 3, we're actually going to be completing our thread. We're actually going to be doing that. In our second video, we went ahead and reorganized our feature manager design tree a little bit so that we could put the original thread feature a little bit higher in the tree. So it's just before this hole in here. This way, when we put in our tapered thread, which is going to follow the original thread, we're going to try to put both of those in the same location in the feature manager design tree. It won't be violating the hole. We'll actually cut the hole not only in the bottom part of our oil cap here, but it'll also cut through the bottom part of that sweep, or the sweep that's going to be violating this area in here. It's going to be violating solid. So, in other words, we're going to be killing two birds with one stone, so to speak. So, let's do this. Let's go ahead and roll up our feature manager design tree and kind of take a look at what I was just discussing. What we want to do is we want to, as we did before, we want to put our thread feature just in front of that hole. So if we roll that down to actually show the hole, what we want to do is we want to put in the tapered thread in front of that hole too. So we're going to take our rollback bar and put it just below the original thread, and then we're going to go from there. Let's go ahead and look at our original helix and see how that's put together. So you can see the helix comes down to that point. So what we want to do is we want to emulate our second helix to do pretty close to the same thing. So we're going to borrow that profile. We're going to put a point in here. We're going to select this bottom face in order to put a new plane here. We're going to draw a circular profile simulating or borrowing the geometry from that's already exists down here at the bottom part of our oil cap. And then we're going to use that as a base for our helix. So let's go into the helix and actually look at some of the parameters. There's a couple things that we want to keep a note of. We're not going to be doing a variable pitch helix. We're going to do a constant pitch. But we're going to borrow the pitch parameters here, which is 4.5 millimeters. Revolutions, we're not going to do 3.75. We're going to do something that's probably close to 1 or less than 1. We don't need to do a height on this thing. So that's pretty much the only parameter we want to remember is that 4.5 millimeters. We do want to make sure that we're following the same format of the other one. We want to make sure that we're going to go clockwise on it. And this time we're going to be picking both the pitch and revolution, just as it shows here. So we'll go to the red X, right click in this, we're going to go hide it by going to the eyeglasses, and now we're going to put in our plane. So let's click on this point, click in that face, go up to features, reference geometry, go to plane. And if it doesn't automatically go parallel on you, you want to make sure you click on the parallel button and just do the green check mark. You can rename that plane too if you like. So we're going to click on this plane. We're going to go to sketch. We're going to go to the sketch button to initiate sketch functions. Go to convert entities. Click on the edge over here for that circle and green check mark. So now we have a circle. We're going to go ahead and rebuild that. And we're going to select that circle as our base for our helix. And again, go up to features. This time, instead of reference geometry, we're going to put in a curve, helix and spiral, and it'll probably pick up some of the elements that you had before if you put in your helix before. But we're going to modify this just a little bit. So instead of a constant pitch, or a variable pitch, we're going to put in a constant pitch. We're going to keep the 4.5 millimeter for the pitch. And we do want to make sure we have pitch and revolution here too. Revolutions, we're not going to do 3.5, maybe 0.5. We'll see how that turns out. Start angle at 90 degrees. Probably not. It looks like it's starting here, but we really want it to start here. So we're going to change out a little bit, maybe 270. Puts it a little bit too far back, so 180 degrees looks like it'll work right there. So that's perfect. It starts right there. And it's going about halfway down, so it looks like it's going to terminate all the way down here. So let's not put in half a revolution, maybe a third of a revolution might be good, or maybe something a little bit less than that. And that should work. So down here is where you want to put in your taper. You want to go ahead and click on that. And for now, we're just going to put in an arbitrary angle in regard to degrees. And we're going to put in 10, and to see how that works, if you click inside of this, if you don't want to taper it outwards, and it doesn't really show at 10, but let's go ahead and do 30. And let's go ahead and taper it inwards. Even though if you click the outward button, it will taper inwards. But you do want to make sure it does taper on the inside. And 30 degrees probably looks like a reasonable value there. So we like our helix. We're going to go ahead and do the green check mark. And now we need a profile. So what we have for our sweep is we have our path, we need our profile, and that's fairly easy to do. We're going to go ahead and click on this face. Go to Sketch, go to the Sketch button, go to Convert Entities, and it converts the geometry that's already there. Go to green check mark again, so now we have our profile and we have our path. So we're going to go ahead and rebuild that. We're going to click these two elements. Go up here to Features. Remember, they have to be two independent elements. You can't be inside of the sketch to do a sweep. You have to have two independent elements, both a profile and a path, in order to do your sweep. And we're going to go to Sweep Boss Base, and it's just going to follow our path. And let's go to the green check mark and see what that looks like. So it does have a taper to it. That 30 degree angle for the taper isn't really quite enough. So let's go back into our sweep and go ahead and redefine our helix a little bit. So maybe 30, let's do 50. Let's see what that does. Really doesn't quite do the job there either, so let's go ahead and make that a little bit higher. Maybe 70 or 75 to see what that does. Good. That does a pretty reasonable job. And if you're satisfied with the way that looks, then you can go ahead and take your rollback bar and roll it down to the bottom and save your model. But I kind of like the way that looks. It's very similar to what we see in the photograph. And if you bring that back into view, and maybe make that a little bit bigger, you can see how that looks. So one thing to note here is it's a little pointy here. There really isn't a good circular transition or a tangential transition here, and it's kind of pointy down here too. It looks like it kind of dives into the model a little bit more. So doing a loft here might provide you with a little bit more better results, but it does involve more steps too. If you want to see that, I'll put that into a future video. But if you go back to our original display state, and with that detail being rather small in this model, this may be acceptable way of doing it. So, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please leave comments on the video and I'll answer them shortly. And we'll see you in some future video.